Okay, welcome back to Turnbull Garage. It is time to start working on this Subaru Sambar head rebuild. After getting a bunch of other projects out of the way, it's time to get on this. So what I've got is the head. The head has already been remachined. I got that done. So that's all good. I've got the intake and exhaust valves along with the keepers all in those bags. I've got a camshaft. I've got the rockers along with the bolts here that hold the rockers and the valves, which are looking rather gross. This head actually was outside for a while, and from the previous owner, it's been sitting on my shelf when I picked up a truck. I came with a bunch of spare parts. So it's been out in the elements. So I'm hoping these valves are okay. We're gonna try to salvage them. So let's get started. Because I did not get a video of disassembling this engine, I thought I should show you a little trick. Once you pull the rockers off and the camshaft is out, you're left with the valves and the springs. Now, the spring obviously doesn't have the keepers in it. These are the little, where's my camera? These are the little keepers right here that go onto the top of every valve stem. What I do is I take a deep socket, I'll put it over top of the valve, and give it a quick crack with a hammer, and what that does is it pushes the valve spring down and it springs right back up, but it usually will dislodge the keepers. It's just way quicker than using a compression tool, pushing the spring together, popping the things out with a magnet. Just give it a quick crack with a deep socket. Just be careful though, you don't lose those keepers. You do not want to lose them. So let's go ahead and start building this thing. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire wheel, and I'm going to clean off all these valves, all the carbon, all the crap on them. Some of them have got some rust. We're going to take that off.
Don't forget your safety glasses.
And don't drop your valves. That's all you need to do. Get the carbon off, clean up that valve seat there a little bit, and move on to the next valve. Okay, the valves are all somewhat cleaned up, and if you look, these are the intakes. The intakes are always better shaped than the exhaust. The exhaust ones are usually quite carboned up, but that's basically kind of what you're going for. Just get that cleaned up. So the next thing we need to do is lap them. So to lap the valves, what I use is a fine lapping compound. You want to make sure it's fine. You'll need a suction cup, or in this case, actually a cordless drill is what I use, but I'll show you both. And remember that these valves need to be done in the same locations that they came out. So I've located them intake, exhaust, with an arrow pointed to the front. You want to make sure that they always go back in the same one. They're lapped in the same ones. And yeah, after they're lapped, we'll check with, we'll blue the valves. I'll show you bluing. So let's start with lapping. So I'm going to start with the intake valve, cylinder number 1, which is down here. What I do is take a little bit of lapping compound, get it on the valve. This thing's almost empty, so I got to kind of scrape it, but I'll get some on here and show you what you want to do. Get a little bit of that lapping compound just around the valve seat. All right. And then what I've got is a little cap with some clean engine oil. And I'll dab a little bit of that on the stem because I don't want to wear out the valve guide at all. So you want to lube that up. It's really important you don't get any of that valve lapping compound on the stem. Otherwise you're going to wear out your guides. So you'll put that in there like that. Take your suction cup. Put your suction cup on here. And then what you'll do, kind of center it, is go like this back. Oh, it's not quite centered. There, we get that centered on there a bit better. There we go. Is go like this. Pull the valve out, 90-degree turn, do it again. Pull the valve out, 90-degree turn, do it again. And just keep doing that. You're gonna hear a grinding sound. That's good. It usually starts off a bit rough and then smooths out as you go. So you do that a few times. And then get a clean rag here and wipe it down. And you'll be able to see where it's wearing and see if there's any pits. That looks pretty good. So if you look at that, you can see the little shaded area where it's actually rubbing and lapping. And then we'll clean the seat. Make sure we get all that off of there. Check the seat, see if it looks even all the way around. Yep, and now we'll blue it. So what I've got is some Loctite Prussian blue. So we'll take just a little bit of this. You don't want to put it on thick. That's enough. Don't want too much on there. And we're basically just going to rub a nice even smear of this bluing onto the valve. All right. Then we're going to put it into the valves guide here. What I use is on my other finger, on the other end, I'll push it all the way, push some pressure on it, and just give it a bit of a turn all the way around. Maybe 2 revolutions is all I do. Pop the valve out. And then you can check to see if your valve is true. So if you look at this, as I rotate the valve, it's even all the way. There's no gaps. If you had a bent valve, there would be one area that's not come into contact. And then you also want to check your seat and make sure that it's even all the way around touching, which it is. So that valve is lapped, ready to install a little bit later. Now I'll show you the quicker way of doing it with a cordless drill. So with a cordless drill, same basic procedure. Put some valve lapping compound on the seat part of the valve, kind of spread it around evenly. Get some clean oil on the valve stem. We're on number 2 cylinder now. Put it into the valve, into the stem there. And then, looking at this side, you'll see the stem coming through. What I do is put a cordless drill on there, very lightly. Tighten the chuck up. You don't want to damage that seat at all, so just do it very lightly. And then you don't want to spin this fast. All I do is I spin it, and then I'll go in and out to make sure I get an even lap. I'll even reverse direction. That should be enough. So pop our valve out, give it a wipe off. And we'll have a look at that. And that is looking pretty even all the way around. Looks good. Have a look at the seat. Give it a clean. Make sure it's touching all the way around. Looks like it is. So there you go. It's a little faster that way. You don't want to spin your drill fast. Some heads you can't do it because the top of the valve is recessed and there's no way to get a drill on it, in which case you're going to have to use the old suction cup. But I will be doing this with the valve, so I'm not going to do a time lapse. We're just going to move on after I get all these lapped. Okay, I got these all lapped, and they're all good except for one. Number 3 intake valve. I don't know if you can see this. I think you probably can. Right there. It's very pitted and rusted, and I think it had standing water, and it has rotted that valve a little bit. It might be too far gone. The pits look pretty deep. I'm gonna get a little magnifying glass and look at that. So I may need to get a new valve. I'll take it to work and get the guys to do a grind on it. Might be good enough. The exhaust valves actually came out really good. Normally the exhaust valves, you're gonna get a lot of pitting on there. But if you look at this, if you can see it, it actually came out really good. And the seats as well are very good. So one valve is gonna need some attention. The next step in this is going to be to put the valve stems on, valve stem seals, I should say. Before I go to that, one thing, the valve guides. I didn't check the valve guides, the slop in the valve guides. These little engines, I've done a few of these now, and there's very, very little slop in there. I'm not really too concerned for what these engines do. 46 horsepower. I've never really run into a valve guides that are worn out, so I've just lapped the valves and call it a day. But if you've got worn out valve guides, they can be replaced. They are available. You can buy them. So let's move on to the valve seals. Okay, before we put the valve guides on, we've got these little valve spring seats, I guess you could call them. They're a hardened little ring that the spring will ride on in the head. Otherwise, without these, the spring would wear into the soft aluminum and over time would destroy the heads. So we'll throw these all on. I just gave them a quick little wipe down because I'm not sure about these. I've had other engines where once you put the valve seals on, you can't get these rings on, which is a pain in the butt to pull them off again. So anyway, we'll put those on, and the next thing right over here is our valve seals. Now, I've read some there's I think gray or white and brown, and the brown are on the exhaust. With the kit that I ordered, they're all the same color, so they're the same size. So we're just gonna put them on. So what I do, sometimes these can be easy, sometimes they can be difficult. I put just a little bit of oil on the inside to help it slide on. They should just press on. Yeah, they do. That's nice. So we'll just go around and press these all on. I'm just using a bit of clean engine oil just to help lube these up to get them to go on. So if you find your little Sambar smokes a lot of oil after decelerating, if you're on the highway, say, and you get off the throttle and you come to a stop and the engine's slowing down with back off the throttle, and then it burns a lot of oil, it'll be your valve guide seals that are leaking, because the high vacuum in the engine will pull the oil through the intake seals. So there you go. There's the intake seals. The next thing is to flip it over or on its end and install the valves, -1. I'm going to start with the exhaust valves. So I got everything laid out here. I kind of cleaned everything up. These rings, I told you to put them on before the valve seals. You don't have to. I actually turned the head over and one of them popped off. So the valve seals aren't, they're actually the outside diameter of the valve seals are smaller than that. So that's good. You don't have to worry about that. You can put them on after, no big deal. But everything cleaned up. I got a valve spring compressor. I've got a little dab of grease. I'll show you why I've got that. And yeah, there's my valve. So let's start popping these in. Okay, I'm going to try and show this. It'll be a little difficult, but I'll do my best. I've got number 4 exhaust valve, and I'm going to put a little bit of oil on it so that it's lubed inside the stem. I'm going to pop that through. Put our little valve spring seat on. Put our valve on. I don't know what these are called, but it's part of the valve keeper. Is it going to stay there? No. These are a little tricky to do, but okay. Get this centered on here and I'll show you what I'm doing here, what you got to do. All right. So the anvil on the valve spring compressor is on the valve head, and the other one pushes the valve spring. So now what we need to do is put the keepers and put them on there. And they are really difficult, and that's where the grease comes in. So I'll see if I can get this on camera so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to show you a close-up of the end of the valve and the little keeper. So the inside of the keeper has a, oh geez, they're so small, has a little groove in it. You'll see there's a groove, and that groove has to go inside, or in that groove right there on the valve. So that's what you want to achieve, is getting that little, see if the camera can get that. That's what you need to look at getting on both sides. So what I find with these heads is I take a little bit of grease and I put a little bit of grease in that groove, and that helps hold the keeper in place because they are small and they'll want to fall, and it's very frustrating, but the grease does help. You don't want to lose these. So I've also found these to be slightly magnetic, or maybe my screwdriver is, and it'll actually hold it. So I just get it on top of the valve here, push it down into the groove, the grease holds it. Get my next one. It's usually the second one that becomes difficult, but we'll see if we can get it on here. Just help that to guide it, and the grease will hold it. There we go, I think that's on there. And then what I do is I unscrew it instead of releasing it and it popping, because sometimes it can catch the keeper and it'll fly on you. So I actually just unscrew it slowly to release that tension. I already see that that top keeper has come loose. Get that back in there. Come on. Get in there. There we go. There we go. And I also like to give it a little tap with a rubber mallet. Make sure it's on there, and we're good. That's 1 down, 7 to go. All right, so that's all the valves in but one. As mentioned before, that valve has got some pitting on it. I'm going to try and get the guys to grind that one for me, and then we'll install the last valve. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take this rocker assembly all apart and clean it up. Again, this thing was sitting outside, so there's some rust on here. It's just generally kind of dirty. I'm going to clean it up and lube it up, and yeah, that'll be the next video. But for now, that's it. Thanks for watching. Think about subscribing, hit me a like, and we'll see you again. Thanks. Bye.